Captain John Miller checked his ship's systems one last time. The small diplomatic vessel hummed quietly around him. He was alone on this mission, as most first contact situations called for minimal crew to appear less threatening. His task was simple but important: reach out to the Voraxian Empire and establish peaceful communication. The stars stretched endlessly through his viewport. John sipped his coffee and thought about his wife Catherine and their daughter Lily back on Earth. He had promised to bring back a souvenir from his journey, maybe a small piece of alien art, if such exchanges were permitted. Lily had drawn him a picture of what she thought aliens might look like, green with 3 eyes. John smiled at the memory. Computer, broadcast the standard greeting package again, John said. Include all translation matrices and peaceful intent protocols. Broadcasting now, the computer responded. Message includes Earth Alliance diplomatic credentials, personal introduction, and non-aggression signals. John had studied the Voraxians carefully before this mission. They were a proud militaristic species who valued strength and territory. But they were not unreasonable. Several other alien civilizations had established trade relations with them. Earth was simply late to the table. His sensors beeped. 3 Voraxian ships appeared, moving fast toward his position. John straightened his uniform. This is Captain John Miller of Earth. I come with peaceful intentions to establish diplomatic relations between our peoples, he said clearly, making sure the translation system was working. The Voraxian ships surrounded his vessel. They were angular, with sharp edges that reminded John of predatory fish. No response came to his hails. Computer, have they received our messages? Affirmative. Messages received, but no response transmitted. John frowned. This wasn't standard procedure. He tried again. Voraxian vessels, please respond. I am an unarmed diplomatic envoy seeking peaceful contact. A harsh voice finally answered. The translation came through choppy but clear enough. Human vessel, you trespass in Voraxian space. Your kind is not recognized as worthy of diplomatic status. John kept his voice level. I apologize for any misunderstanding. I followed the approach vectors registered with the Galactic Council for first contact procedures. Galactic Council has no authority in Voraxian space, the voice replied. Your presence is noted as an act of espionage. That is incorrect, John said firmly. My mission and position have been properly filed. I request communication with your diplomatic corps. A different voice came through, deeper and with authority. I am Commander Vextar of the Imperial Guard. We have observed your species. You seek peace because you are weak. The strong do not ask permission. John felt sweat form on his brow. Commander, strength comes in many forms. Earth wishes to establish peaceful relations with all galactic civilizations. A test, then, said Vextar. If you can defend your vessel, you will earn the right to speak. Before John could respond, his ship rocked violently. Warning lights flashed across his console. Weapons lock detected. The computer announced. Hull breach imminent. This is not a fair test, John said urgently. My vessel is unarmed, as is proper for diplomatic missions. Precisely, came the cold reply. The weak do not deserve to spread across the stars. John sent an emergency beacon signal toward Earth space. Commander, I urge you to reconsider. This action could lead to serious consequences. What consequences? Your Earth is far away, human. And now they will learn what happens when they send the weak to speak with the strong. The Voraxian ships fired again. John's vessel shuddered. Systems failed throughout the small ship. As emergency protocols activated, John recorded a final message. This is Captain John Miller. I was sent in peace. Remember that. The Voraxian weapons tore through the remainder of the ship's defenses. John Miller died as his vessel broke apart. The Voraxians collected his remains, and what was left of his ship. They repaired the vessel just enough for automated systems to function. Then they programmed it to return to Earth space with John's body and a message. Humans are unworthy of galactic citizenship. Remain in your territory or face extinction. The ship drifted back toward Earth, carrying its grim cargo home. Catherine Miller knew something was wrong when two uniformed officers appeared at her door. Their faces were grim. She felt her heart sink as they removed their caps. Her daughter Lily peeked from behind her legs, sensing her mother's fear. "Mrs. Miller," the female officer said gently, "we need to speak with you about your husband." Inside, they explained what had happened to John. His diplomatic vessel had returned to Earth space on autopilot. Inside was his body and the cold message from the Voraxians. Catherine sat motionless as they spoke, her mind unable to process their words. Lily didn't understand but began to cry anyway. "The Global Defense Council is meeting right now," the male officer said. "This act will not go unanswered." News of John Miller's execution spread across Earth within hours. People gathered in city squares, watching giant screens as the story unfolded. Many had never heard of the Voraxians before, but now that name became linked with anger and grief. Admiral Richard Hayes sat silently at the emergency session of the Global Defense Council. For years he had pushed for peaceful expansion, for diplomacy over military might. Now his friend John was dead because of those beliefs. "We must strike immediately," General Frank Peters said, pounding his fist on the table. "Show these aliens that humans cannot be treated this way." "And risk starting a war we know nothing about?" asked Counselor Maria Diaz. "We don't even know their full military capabilities." The debate raged for hours. Some wanted immediate military action. Others proposed economic sanctions through the Galactic Council. A few even suggested retreating from that sector of space entirely. Admiral Hayes finally stood. The room fell silent. "John Miller was my friend," he said quietly. "He believed in peace, but he also believed that peace must be protected." He looked around the room. "I propose something different. Give me 3 months." Outside the council chambers, millions watched as Catherine Miller stood at a podium. Her daughter Lily held her hand tightly. Catherine's face showed her grief, but her voice remained steady. "My husband went to the stars carrying a message of friendship," she said. "He died believing that different beings could find common ground. I ask that his death not become a reason for more death." Her words touched people across Earth and its colony worlds. As she spoke, something shifted in the human consciousness. This wasn't just about one man. It was about what humanity stood for. "John believed in peace," Catherine continued, "but he also believed in justice. Those two things must go hand in hand." After her speech, the Global Defense Council voted unanimously to approve Admiral Hayes' proposal. No one outside the council knew exactly what it entailed. All the public knew was that Earth had not declared war, nor had it backed down. Over the next weeks, Earth's various nations and colonies began mobilizing their forces. Ships moved from their normal patrol routes. Military bases hummed with activity. Production facilities switched to defense work. But no announcements were made. No threats were issued. Other alien civilizations noticed this activity and grew concerned. The Galactic Council sent messages asking for clarification of Earth's intentions. They received polite but vague responses. The Voraxians noticed too. They had expected either an immediate attack or complete submission. This quiet preparation confused them. Their ambassadors to other species boasted that humans were too frightened to respond, but privately, Voraxian leaders worried. On colony worlds and on Earth, training intensified. Ships were retrofitted with new technology. Soldiers practiced new tactics. And everywhere, John Miller's face appeared on posters and screens. Not as a call for revenge, but as a reminder of what was at stake. 3 months, Admiral Hayes had said. And as those months began, the galaxy watched and waited, wondering what Earth's response would be. For 3 months, the galaxy observed in eerie silence from Earth. Human trading ships still visited alien ports, but their crews were tight-lipped. Military vessels disappeared from their usual patrol routes. The Galactic Council grew worried about what this might mean. The Voraxians, meanwhile, boasted to other civilizations about humanity's apparent cowardice. They send one weak diplomat. We kill him, and now they hide. Voraxian Commander Vextar told the Galactic Assembly. This proves humans are unworthy of galactic citizenship. But behind Earth's silence, tremendous activity was underway. Admiral Hayes called it Operation Quiet Justice. In a hidden facility orbiting Jupiter, he stood before a holographic display showing hundreds of ships under construction. "How soon until the stealth systems are ready?" he asked. Dr. Ellen Wright, Earth's leading expert on alien technology, studied her datapad. "We've successfully adapted the phase-shifting technology we found in the abandoned Zexian outpost. The Voraxians have never encountered it before. They won't see us coming." In another part of the solar system, Lieutenant Greg Martinez led special forces through zero-gravity combat training. His team moved silently in new battle suits that blended perfectly with the darkness of space. Again, Martinez ordered after a practice run, "We need to be perfect. Remember what's at stake." The men and women under his command nodded. Many had known John Miller. All had seen Catherine's speech. They trained harder, pushing themselves beyond normal human limits. Earth's colony worlds contributed too. Mining operations on distant moons provided rare materials. Research stations shared their latest findings. For the first time in human history, all of Earth's nations and colonies worked together with a single purpose. Catherine Miller visited some of these facilities with her daughter Lily. Their presence reminded everyone why they were working so hard. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice and ensuring this never happened again. During this time, the Galactic Council grew increasingly concerned. They sent Ambassador Xorlin, a respected diplomat, to Earth to mediate the growing tension. "We understand your grief," Xorlin told Earth's representatives. "But a military response could destabilize this entire sector. Let us help find a diplomatic solution." Earth politely declined any meetings. Their only message: "A response is being formulated." This cryptic answer troubled many galactic civilizations. Some began to distance themselves from both humans and Voraxians, fearing they might be caught in a devastating war. As the third month neared its end, Admiral Hayes called Earth's leaders together for a final briefing. On a massive screen, he showed them what had been created. "We have built something the galaxy has never seen," he explained. "Not just weapons, but a new approach to conflict resolution." President Susan Clark studied the images carefully. "And you're certain this will work?" "Nothing is certain," Hayes admitted. "But John believed in finding better ways to solve problems. I think he would approve of this approach." The president nodded. "Then you have my authorization. When will it begin?" "Tomorrow marks exactly 100 days since John's death," Hayes replied. "We start then." Across Earth and its colonies, families held their breath. No one knew exactly what would happen, but everyone understood the significance. Earth had been pushed. Now it would push back. In Voraxian space, life continued normally. Their military remained on standard alert. Their leaders still mocked humanity in public speeches. They had no idea what was coming. That night, Catherine Miller couldn't sleep. She stood at her window, looking up at the stars where her husband had died. Tomorrow would bring Earth's answer to his killing. She hoped, whatever it was, that it would make the galaxy understand what humanity truly stood for. Exactly 100 days after John Miller's execution, every communication relay across Voraxian space went silent at the same moment. Their defense grid showed no approaching ships. No warnings appeared on any sensors. 1 second everything worked normally, and the next, the entire Voraxian Empire was cut off from the rest of the galaxy. In the Imperial Palace on the Voraxian homeworld, alarms blared. Emperor Akarkan stormed into the command center, his scales flaring with anger. "Explain this failure," he demanded of his generals. "Unknown, Your Majesty," replied General Draz. "We detect no attacks, no enemy ships, nothing unusual except the communications blackout." Then, on every screen across the Voraxian Empire, A single message appeared. You killed one human. We remember John Miller. Aboard the EA's Judgment, Captain Samantha Pierce watched as her fleet of 50 ships maintained position just outside Voraxian detection range. The ships were unlike anything humanity had built before. They used the phase shift technology Dr. Wright had perfected, making them essentially invisible to Voraxian sensors. Phase shift complete on all vessels, reported Lieutenant Amy Garcia. The drones are deployed and in position. Captain Pierce nodded. Begin Stage 2. Across Voraxian space, millions of small drones no bigger than a human hand activated simultaneously. They had been quietly positioned during the 3 months of preparation, smuggled in by civilian trading vessels or dropped by stealth scouts. Now they'd formed an impenetrable net around every Voraxian world and outpost. Drone network at 100%. Garcia confirmed. Blockade is active. On the Voraxian homeworld, Emperor Kharkan received another message. This one was a direct communication request. When he accepted, Captain Pierce's face appeared on the screen. What is the meaning of this? The Emperor demanded. Is this a declaration of war? No, Pierce replied calmly. This is a demonstration. You killed one human to show your strength. We are showing ours by choosing not to kill in return. The Emperor's confusion was visible. You've cut off our communications. Yes, and we've established a blockade around every Voraxian world and outpost. No ships can leave or enter your space without our permission. But we have harmed no one. Meanwhile, across Voraxian space, military vessels trying to respond found themselves unable to engage their weapons. The small drones emitted a field that disrupted energy weapons, but did nothing to life support or navigation systems. You can't do this, General Draz said, joining the Emperor on screen. Your technology can't be this advanced. We've studied human capabilities. You studied what we allowed you to see, Pierce explained. Earth has been exploring the galaxy longer than you know. We chose peaceful contact not from weakness, but from wisdom. On Earth, the Global Defense Council watched the operation unfold. Admiral Hayes stood with Catherine Miller, who had requested to observe. No shots fired, Hayes confirmed. No casualties on either side. Catherine nodded slowly. John would have approved. Back in Voraxian space, Captain Pierce continued her explanation to the increasingly agitated Emperor. Your ships have not been destroyed, merely disabled. Your planets have not been bombed, merely isolated. We could have killed millions, as you suggested was your right when you executed our diplomat. Instead, we chose a different path. What do you want? The Emperor finally asked, his voice tight with suppressed rage. Justice, Pierce replied, but not vengeance. In 1 hour, Ambassador Paul Rodriguez will address the Galactic Council. You will be permitted to send a representative to hear Earth's terms. As she spoke, Voraxian military leaders were making this shocking discovery. Every weapon in their arsenal, from the largest planetary defense cannon to the smallest handheld blaster, had been rendered temporarily inoperable. An entire empire disarmed without a single casualty. This is impossible, General Draz whispered, trying and failing to activate his personal sidearm. No, Pierce corrected him. This is humanity. You killed one of us to show your strength. We spared all of you to show ours. The news began to spread across the galaxy. Earth had responded to the death of one human in a way no one had anticipated. They had not started a war. They had ended one before it began. Emperor Kharkan paced in his palace chamber. His advisors watched nervously as their leader's tail lashed back and forth. The demonstration of human power had shaken the Voraxian Empire to its core. For centuries, they had believed military might was the ultimate measure of the species. Now they faced something they didn't understand. Bring the human to me, Kharkan ordered. I want to see this Captain Pierce face to face. An hour later, a small human shuttle was permitted through the blockade. It landed in the Imperial courtyard. Captain Samantha Pierce stepped out alone, wearing a simple blue uniform with no visible weapons. Guards surrounded her, their claws extended. "Your weapons won't activate," Pierce said calmly. "But you won't need them. I come to talk, not to fight." In the grand throne room, Emperor Khan waited. He had dressed in his most impressive battle armor, covered with marks of his military victories. Pierce showed no reaction to the display as she entered. "Your blockade is an act of war," the Emperor began. "No," Pierce corrected. "It's an act of restraint. War would have meant destruction. We chose a different path." The Emperor's scales darkened with anger. "You humiliate us before the galaxy." "You executed a diplomat who came in peace," Pierce replied. "That was your choice. This is ours." Across the room, General Draz and his officers watched with growing concern. They had prepared for many possibilities: open battle, planet-wide bombardment, even biological warfare. But this calm human standing before their emperor, offering words instead of threats, confused them completely. "What do you want?" Kazarkan finally asked. Pierce took a small device from her pocket. The guards tensed, but she simply placed it on the floor between them. "This contains the terms Earth has sent to the Galactic Council," she explained. "Justice for John Miller's family, reparations for his death, and a complete revision of Varaxian first contact protocols." The Emperor laughed harshly. "And if we refuse?" "The blockade remains," Pierce said simply, "for as long as necessary." "Your ships cannot stay forever," General Draz interjected. "Your people will grow tired. Your resources will run out." Pierce smiled slightly. "Look outside." On a large viewing screen, the scene above the Varaxian homeworld appeared. The drones maintaining the blockade were being replaced by new ones, smaller and more efficient. But what shocked the Varaxians most was the absence of human ships. "The blockade is now fully automated," Pierce explained. "It requires no human presence to maintain. The drones are self-replicating using materials from your system's asteroid belt. They can remain active for decades if needed." A murmur of disbelief spread through the throne room. Such technology was beyond anything the Varaxians had imagined possible. "As proof of our capabilities," Pierce continued, "I will now demonstrate something else." She pressed a button on her wrist device. Instantly, every light in the palace flickered. When they came back on, the Emperor found that his elaborate armor had powered down completely. The decorative lighting, the electronic systems that enhanced his appearance before his subjects, all disabled. "A small demonstration," Pierce said. "Temporary and harmless." The Emperor stood frozen, his imperial image suddenly diminished. His advisors looked away, embarrassed for their leader. "You could have destroyed us," Sarkhan said quietly, a new understanding in his voice. "Yes," Pierce agreed. "But what would that prove? That we can kill as easily as you. We wanted to show something different. That true power lies in choosing not to harm when you have every reason and ability to do so." For the first time in recorded Varaxian history, their emperor lowered his head to a representative of another species. "The human you killed believed in peace," Pierce said. "His name was John Miller. Remember it, because his death has changed your empire forever, not through the destruction we could have brought, but through the mercy we chose instead." Throughout the Varaxian Empire, citizens watched this exchange on their screens. Something shifted in their understanding of the galaxy and their place in it. The species they had dismissed as weak had shown strength beyond anything in Varaxian philosophy. News of Earth's response spread rapidly throughout the galaxy. Many civilizations had dismissed humans as technologically primitive newcomers. Now they scrambled to reassess this species that had disabled an entire empire without firing a shot. The Galactic Council, the largest governing body in known space, called an emergency session. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Great Hall on the neutral planet Arxia. The Varaxian seat remained conspicuously empty as the session began. Then Ambassador Paul Rodriguez entered. The human walked calmly to the center of the chamber. He wore a simple dark suit with a small pin showing Earth's blue and green sphere. The room fell silent. Distinguished representatives, Rodriguez began. For years, humanity has sought peaceful integration into the galactic community. We followed your protocols. We respected your boundaries. We came as students, not conquerors. The Zalaxian representative interrupted. Yet now you demonstrate military technology beyond anything we believed you possessed. You have deceived us all. Rodriguez shook his head. We did not deceive. We simply did not volunteer everything. Would you share all your capabilities with strangers upon first meeting? Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many species had indeed kept their most advanced technologies secret. What Earth demonstrated today was not primarily military technology. Rodriguez continued. It was our approach to conflict. We could have responded to the murder of our diplomat with destruction. Instead, we chose a response that protected lives on both sides. The council president, a tall being with iridescent skin, leaned forward. Why reveal your capabilities now? You could have continued your deception. Because hiding created misunderstanding, Rodriguez explained. The Varaxians killed John Miller because they thought us weak. That perception was dangerous, not just to us, but to them. True peace requires honest understanding. At that moment, the doors opened again. A Varaxian delegation entered, led not by their usual ambassador, but by Emperor Xarkon himself. The council chamber erupted in surprised whispers. Never before had a Varaxian emperor personally attended a council session. Harka moved to stand near Rodriguez. His imperial armor was gone, replaced by simple diplomatic robes. The Varaxian Empire, he announced formally, acknowledges its error in the matter of human diplomat John Miller. We accept the terms offered by Earth. The council president's eyes widened. What terms? Rodriguez displayed a holographic document. Justice for Miller's family. Reparations to fund peaceful contact initiatives, and reformed Varaxian protocols for diplomatic encounters. That is all, asked the representative from the warlike Krell Dominion. You could have demanded territory, resources, even sovereignty over Varaxian worlds. Such demands would perpetuate the cycle of dominance and submission that has caused so much suffering in galactic history, Rodriguez replied. Earth seeks a different path. Throughout the chamber, representatives began to understand. Many species had joined the galactic community through conquest or by being conquered. Humans were proposing something different. There is one more thing, Rodriguez added. Earth has maintained certain technological advances in secret. We now offer to share some of these advances, particularly those related to medicine, sustainable energy, and environmental restoration, with all council members. This announcement caused even more commotion. Technology sharing on such a scale was unprecedented. Why would you do this? Asked the Tellarite ambassador. Because John Miller believed knowledge should unite us, not divide us, Rodriguez said. And because keeping these advances to ourselves would eventually create more misunderstanding, more fear, and more conflict. Emperor Xarkon, standing silently beside Rodriguez, finally spoke again. The humans have taught the Varaxian Empire a valuable lesson. True strength is not measured by one's capacity to destroy, but by one's wisdom in choosing not to. We have much to learn from each other. As the session continued, representatives from across the galaxy began to see humans in a new light, not as the naive newcomers they had assumed, but as a species that had watched, learned, and developed a different understanding of power and its responsible use. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after Earth's demonstration of power and restraint, the blockade around Varaxian space was lifted. Ships moved freely once more between their worlds and the rest of the galaxy. But everything had changed. Catherine Miller stood on a platform in the newly built Peace Center on the neutral planet Arxia. Before her stretched a garden with plants from 100 different worlds, including Earth roses and Varaxian fire blooms growing side by side. Behind her stood a simple stone monument bearing her husband's name. Today we open the John Miller Foundation for Peaceful Contact. she announced to the assembled crowd of diplomats and leaders from across the galaxy. Funded by Varaxian reparations but guided by all species, this foundation will train diplomats in the art of true understanding. Among those watching was Emperor Xarkhan, who had traveled outside Varaxian space for the first time in his life. Beside him stood Admiral Hayes, the architect of Earth's response. Once bitter enemies, now they spoke quietly together as equals. "Your people have changed our understanding of strength," Xarkhan admitted to Hayes. "For generations, we believed power meant the ability to destroy. You showed us a different kind of power." Hayes nodded. "John always said that anyone can destroy. Creation is the true challenge." On Varaxian worlds, a cultural shift had begun. Young Varaxians questioned the purely militaristic traditions of their past. Schools that once taught only battle tactics now included diplomatic history and cross-species communication. The change wasn't easy or universally welcomed, but it was happening. Captain Samantha Pierce had become something of a legend in galactic history, not for leading a devastating attack, but for commanding the mission that demonstrated how a truly advanced civilization responds to aggression. She now served as Earth's representative to the Galactic Security Council, working to reform defense policies across known space. Lieutenant Greg Martinez, whose special forces had been prepared for combat but never needed to fight, now led a mixed human-Varaxian security team protecting diplomatic missions in troubled regions. The sight of humans and Varaxians working together still surprised many, but it was becoming more common. In her home on Earth, Lily Miller, now 7 years old, showed her mother a drawing she had made at school. It depicted a human hand and a Varaxian claw clasped together. "Dad would have liked this," she said. Catherine smiled and hung the picture on the wall. "Yes, he would have." Dr. Ellen Wright, whose technological breakthroughs had made Earth's response possible, addressed the Galactic Science Academy. Scientists from hundreds of species had gathered to hear her speak about human innovation. "The greatest weapon humanity developed was never our technology," she told them. "It was our capacity to choose justice over vengeance when we had every reason and ability to do otherwise." The Academy had created a new field of study called cross-species ethical development, based on Earth's demonstration. Students from across the galaxy now studied the Miller incident, as it came to be known, as a turning point in galactic relations. On the anniversary of John Miller's death, people from Earth and many other worlds observed a moment of silence. Even on Varaxian worlds, many stopped their activities to remember, not in shame, but in recognition of how a single event had changed their understanding of strength, justice, and power. In the Varaxian Royal Museum, a new exhibit opened. It displayed the simple blue uniform John Miller had worn on his mission of peace. Beside it stood the text of Captain Pierce's message. "You killed one human. We remember John Miller." But now those words meant something different. They represented not a threat, but a turning point. The moment when humanity showed the galaxy that the strongest response to violence isn't always more violence, and that true power lies in having the ability to destroy and choosing not to use it. As Catherine Miller had said at the opening of the Foundation, one life can change the galaxy, not through how it ends, but through what that life inspires in others. And throughout the stars, species that had lived by the old rules of conquest and submission began to consider a different way forward.